Hey everyone, I wanted to give you a brief update on what God has been doing since our latest video, how He's been moving in our life. If you haven't had a chance to take a look at our latest video, on that video we shared a little bit about the transition that God was taking us in, moving us out of leadership at the Illinois Valley House of Prayer, and also just the call that He was putting on our life to plant a new expression of church in the Phoenix area. So if you want more details about that video, there's a link in the description below. Feel free to take a look at that. And if you haven't watched it before this video, I would say stop this video and go take a look at that one. It's a good precursor to give you a little background on where we're at right now. So a lot has transpired actually since our last update. And really the coolest thing that God has been doing really is connecting us with a team of people who are like-minded, who have the same heart and same vision. And this was just a really, really amazing divine connection that God did for us. So it was Sarah's birthday. And remember, before this, we knew we were being called to Phoenix, but we still didn't know why. We couldn't really wrap our heads around why God was taking us from the Midwest all the way to the Southwest. What are you doing is kind of what's going on in our mind. But we continue just to keep the course because we felt like God was on this and that He was really leading us this way. So Sarah gets a text from a friend saying, hey, why don't you check out this podcast? I think this would be really interesting to you guys. And so Sarah listens to it and is just extremely excited. So she gets on the phone, tells me, Tyler, you got to listen to this podcast. I can't believe the ways that God has put some of these similar passions and things on our heart, the way he's putting it on another person's heart, and a team seems to be forming and all of this stuff. And so I was like, okay, so I take a listen to the podcast, and I myself was amazed. Now, the podcast is between Ken Fish and Putty Putman. Both of these guys are fairly well known in the Vineyard Church. And the podcast was really about the next call that God was giving to Putty and what that really looked like. I'm going to go ahead and go to that. There's about a 2-minute clip that I want to show you from that video to give you a little bit of context, and then we'll continue with the video after that.
You know, my conviction is actually that the way that we do church in the West is hitting or has hit its expiration date. It is not designed for the world that we live in anymore. And as a result, it feels archaic, it feels out of touch, it feels out of date. It is largely ineffective, ineffective in increasing measure in each generation that goes by. And I know I'm not among dissenters when I say it cannot be that Jesus has failed. It cannot be that His kingdom has failed. So what is happening here? And what I would say is the fit between the church and the world the church is meant to reach is getting further and further and further. And that's the sense of tension. That's the sense of failure. So I've been talking with the Lord about this for 5-6 years. And He said, all right, we're going to go do that now. And so I said, oh, okay. What does that mean? What does that look like? And I surveyed a ton of different options. And the conclusion I came to, for better or for worse, is the only way I can do that is to plant a church in a new shape. I can't do it by proxy. I can't train somebody else to do the thing. It's like, I can see it lives in here. And the only way to make it happen is to go do it with my own life. Like, you guys know how that is. And so that's the journey that I've been on. I actually think in terms of church pioneering more than church planting, because church planting kind of communicates I'm starting a new church. For me, the main thing is actually not starting a new church. I'm not like, there needs to be another church in Phoenix. I'm like, there needs to be a new way of church. And the only way that I can think of to make a new way of church is to just start with a blank canvas and build one from scratch. And so I'm church planting so I can do church pioneering. And that's what I'm heading towards. That's what I'm moving towards Phoenix to do.
All right, so obviously we were beyond thrilled as we listened to this and just thinking the way that God was moving on Putty's heart And this team that was beginning to form around this was so similar to what he was doing inside of Sarah and I. And then to boot, it was in the same location. Now, this team right now is in the suburbs of Chicago. So we've been visiting almost on a weekly basis. So they're not like, super connected in any big way to the Phoenix area. So once again, this was just another one of those just divine things that God's orchestrating that we don't understand. And it's really interesting too, the way that Putty arrived at this conclusion that Phoenix was the place to plant this new expression of church, and the way that we arrived at it was very different. We just kind of felt God calling us to it, and there was all these prophetic confirmations that were happening as we began to explore that option more. Putty's a physicist, and so he has a research and analytical mindset that really was narrowing down the very best place after studying all these different demographics and statistics and cultural stuff. Where was the best place to plant this expression? And so it's just another testimony to how God can use different people wired in different ways to arrive at the same conclusion, and was just a very, very confirming thing for us that, yes, we are on the right track here. Another thing that I want to share is that Putty's not completely unfamiliar to us. We hadn't had a relationship with him or really any of the team members before this, but Sarah did go through the School of Kingdom Ministry, which Putty and the Vineyard Church was really behind orchestrating getting that school off the ground. And it was really revolutionary and life-changing for Sarah, and really opened up the whole world of how the Holy Spirit really wants to move and be activated in her life and in all of our lives today. And so we had a little bit of a background, but after watching this video, I knew, okay, I gotta get a hold of this guy. So we begin the preliminary conversations, and we really started to, if you will, we started kind of almost like a dating relationship with the team there in the suburbs of Chicago. We began to meet with them for just kind of relational hangouts. We did some ministry together. We were able to do a prophetic room at one of the churches that was up in the suburb area. We were just really trying to see, okay, we know that God's calling us pretty much to the same thing and pretty much to the same place, but that's not the end of the story. We want to make sure that there's more to this, that we are really connecting and supposed to do this together. And so throughout the course of that dating relationship, we really began to sense that, yeah, this is something that God is leading and moving in. And so we've kind of moved from the dating phase now to what we're calling the engagement phase, where we are now beginning to do church together with this team, experimenting on different ways that God really wants to breathe on that. We're beginning to look at logistics with the team, and we're really trying to find our place in this pioneering movement that God is doing. Now, I do want to say, at the end of the day, Putty, the team, us, we all feel the same thing. We want to accomplish the mission and vision that God has put on our hearts. As it stands right now, it really looks like that's something that we're supposed to be doing together. But there is this opportunity, obviously, for God to come in and lead people in different directions. And we don't know what the future holds, but we're just really, really thankful to have a group of like-minded people who we are on this mission with. And so that has been really one of the biggest things that I wanted to highlight. Now, for some final details here, we are currently in the ending process, we hope, of selling our home. It's been a little bit rockier than what we would have liked, but we have seen God just moving through this whole thing. We're really trusting that He's got this whole selling of our house in His hands. So that's one of the elements that we're really focusing on right now. Another one is we feel like we're supposed to move to that northern Chicago area, even if it's just for a couple of months, so that we can be closer to the team. Like I said, we've been traveling almost on a weekly basis up there, and it's quite a haul. So it would be great to be right in community with them there. So we're looking for options for that to happen. And then this is the hope. And once again, I don't want to put any deadlines or any final things here, but the hope is that we will be able to move out to Phoenix at the start of 2023. And so that's just a little bit of kind of what's coming up on the agenda for us, the way that God has been moving over this past month or so, and just really excited and thankful for being able to share this, and thankful to all you guys for taking some time to watch it and for praying for us and all the different things that y'all are doing as well. So just wanted to thank you for that. So we will continue to track with you, keep you in the loop, and to share the excitement of all that God's doing in our life and this new mission that He has called our family to. Thanks, guys.